Hi, my name is Gwen Mc Hale. I'm a somatic therapist and educator based in the west of Ireland. And I wanted to speak a little bit today about trauma. So, as a somatic therapist, a lot of my work revolves around helping individuals to resolve trauma from early childhood or later life events. Somatic therapy is probably best known for its work in trauma, with real pioneers coming out of the field, such as Peter Levine and Bessel van der Kolk, for example, and many more now as well. And if it's not something you know about, it really might be worth you know googling even these names and checking it out for yourself. Because what these really exciting researchers have shown us over the last 10 and 20 years is that our brains are what's called plastic. It means they're adaptable, they change, they rewire. Um, it used to be believed that if a person was badly traumatized, shell shocked, as they say, after World War II, for example, that they would always be that way because our brains don't change. But actually, now we know that they do. And there's now a lot of systems built on that awareness for how we can rewire basically the neurons in our brain to create vast differences in our quality of life and our inner and outer experiences. So this is great news for all of us who have experienced trauma, that we can heal and our lives can be different. I feel like I want to say that again. Our lives can be different and we can heal. So you might be wondering, does this apply to me? Have I experienced trauma? You might know you have, or you might feel, God, I really haven't. And maybe what comes to mind when you think of trauma, are things like war veterans and rape victims and abuse survivors. And of course, those things all are very likely to lead to trauma. But as Peter Levine tells us, trauma isn't in an event, it's in our bodies. And it's about how our bodies respond to things that are happening to us. When we become really overwhelmed and rightly or wrongly we feel we might not survive, that this feels really life and death, then that's when we're left with trauma. And what can compound that is when the trauma is overlaid with things like shame or secrecy or denial. So trauma can be a big event, such as a near-death experience, almost fatal car accident, or being viciously attacked or something like that. But we can also be left traumatized by seemingly minor incidents. Even routine medical procedures can leave us feeling that way, or ongoing emotional abuse, or having grown up in toxic or enmeshed family systems. Really anything that has overwhelmed our ability to respond in a healthy way to what's happening in our environment. Often we're left feeling disconnected somehow from ourselves, from others, from the world. How we respond to trauma can vary greatly, and what I'll do is I'm going to post a kind of a checklist under the video for you of possible ways that trauma might be showing up in your life now. But I'll name just a few here as well. So you could be stuck in a fight and flight response, in which case you'd be experiencing things like, if it's a fight response, perhaps you get angry easily, or perhaps you are just angry with yourself internally, very self-critical, for example. Maybe you're always expecting to be attacked and preparing for a fight in yourself all the time. Maybe you're just feeling very under pressure and speeded up and stressed out and kind of have a short fuse. You might be impatient. And then you might end up with a lot of guilt and regret for having snapped at people or behaved in ways that you would rather not have done. If you're stuck more in the flight mode, you might find yourself literally running from thing to thing, and not taking any downtime or space. Your thoughts might be running, going really fast all the time, a little letdown, which might lead to things like insomnia. You might find yourself really addicted to caffeine or nicotine, to try and maintain that speed, that sense of running all the time. More likely you'll be stuck in a freeze response. So that's like when, if you've ever seen a cat playing with a mouse, the mouse plays dead as a kind of a self-defense mechanism. And if we were in a traumatic experience where we didn't have the possibility of running or fighting, for example, as is nearly always the case when children are victims, they can't fight an adult, they may not be able to run away from the adult. So we often are left with kind of a freeze response, which can lead later to depressive states, numbness, addiction. Not that trauma, childhood trauma isn't necessarily the only thing that would lead to those feelings of depression or lead to addictions, but they are very likely to be connected. So there's lots of things, kind of a dissociated experience, feeling like you're not really in your body, you're away from your body, you don't really feel your feelings, you don't really feel you can empathise with other people, or perhaps you overly empathise and don't experience yourself having any boundaries. Maybe you like to people please. This is called a phone response. I'll just do whatever everybody wants and then I'll be safe. Basically, if we are living from a place of trauma, our inner world all revolves around finding safety. We're orienting towards safety all the time, and yet we may not be able to access safety when it's there. In our search for safety, we might actually be on the lookout for danger and threat all the time, which can really add layers and layers of other traumas on top of the original ones. So I know this all sounds like very bad news, so I'll remind you of what I said earlier. We now know how to work with trauma. This doesn't have to be a life sentence, and the work is by nature designed not to overwhelm. So as a somatic therapist working with trauma, we tritate it. So we take a little tiny drop at a time to work with that, so that people don't have to go right back into the traumatic experience all at once and be totally overwhelmed by it. So probably giving you some food for thought here. As I said, if you see yourself in any of what I'm saying or any of the checklist below, then even if you're not sure, even if you have no memories of anything that might have been traumatic for you, check it out. You read up on things, maybe talk to a therapist if it feels appropriate to you. Just it's worth checking out, because so many people are diagnosed with all sorts of disorders, and then later, they come to a somatic therapist. And there's more and more psychiatrists, psychologists, different kinds of psychotherapists who are now also training somatically and know how to work somatically, which is wonderful. It's becoming more and more mainstream. But a lot of people who've been struggling for a very long time, being heavily medicated, been in and out of psychiatric care, struggling with addictions for a really long time, are coming to this work now and finding such relief and such hope with it. So I really encourage you to just check it out for yourself and see if it resonates with you or not, if it sounds like something that might help you in some way. Then it's, I think we owe it to ourselves to follow up on those kinds of intuitions. Okay, so I wish you the best of luck on your healing journey, and take good care. Bye.